Do you remember that feeling? Your heart pounding as you pulled a beat-up VHS tape from its worn cardboard sleeve, slid it into the VCR, and watched the static lines dance across the screen of your bulky CRT TV until that iconic voice announced, Die Hard. Part 1. Let's be real, this isn't just a movie. It's a legend that defined a generation. And today, I want to break down this masterpiece through the lens of its absolutely killer, no exaggeration arsenal. So grab your snacks, get comfy, and let's dive into our detailed firearm analysis. Let's kick things off with the film's calling card, the Beretta 92F. Remember the opening scene, when a nervous passenger on the plane spots McClane's shoulder holster, and John reassures him with, "It's okay. I'm a cop." Well, here comes your first dose of reality check. Think about it. The Beretta 92F was officially adopted by the U.S. military in 1985, replacing the legendary Colt M1911. But Die Hard takes place over Christmas 1988. At that time, these Berettas were only just starting to trickle into service, and not even all units. Meanwhile, American police departments were wildly conservative back then. Most cops were still carrying revolvers. The NYPD, where John McClane served, hadn't even seen these Berettas as standard-issue sidearms. They wouldn't transition to semi-automatic pistols until much later. So how did a Beretta end up in the hands of a regular detective? Only one logical conclusion. This was John's personal firearm, bought with his own hard-earned cash. And that actually explains perfectly why he's hauling it across the country instead of checking it into the precinct armory. Fun fact, they didn't use a prop for filming that was a real, live-fire Beretta. And get this, the very same pistol had appeared a year earlier in Mel Gibson's hands during the first Lethal Weapon. For Bruce Willis, though, they gave it a little upgrade. Oversized magazine release and slide catch levers, so he could handle it faster and more smoothly during close-up action scenes. Next up, the main villain, Hans Gruber, a man of style. And his weapon matches that vibe. A pricey, highly unusual 9mm German pistol, the Heckler and HK P7M13, with a flashy chrome finish. Fun fact, this very model actually competed against the Italian Beretta in the 1985 M9 trials to replace the Colt. Here's a cool detail. Hans uses it with a suppressor. Yes, there is a factory variant, the P7M13 SD, with threaded barrel for a silencer. But that version had a slightly extended barrel protruding from a slide. The filmmakers didn't bother with that, they just rigged the suppressor mount directly inside the barrel channel. McClane's other sworn enemy, Karl, packs an equally famous German piece, the Walther PPK with a suppressor. Despite being designed back during World War II, the PPK is still hugely popular today. The name stands for Polizei Pistole, basically criminal police pistol. Interestingly, after the war, the PPK and its bigger sibling, the Walther PP, serve as the blueprint for the Soviet competition to replace the TT and Nagant revolvers. Quick trivia, anyone know which pistol won that contest? Drop it in the comments. The Walther makes total sense in the hands of German bad guys. First, Germans love their homegrown hardware. Second, the PPK was and still is easy to buy. It's such a successful design that it remains in production to this day. Another interesting piece that pops up, the 9mm Walther P5. This pistol was developed in West Germany in 1979, following the tragic events of the Munich Olympics. Its design borrows from the legendary Walther P38, but engineers shrunk it down, made it more compact, and added modern safety features. Now, what about the local cops? The lovable Sergeant Al Powell, in the film's finale, shows off a Smith & Wesson Model 15 revolver. And here, historical accuracy is on point. This 6-shot .38 caliber revolver was the official sidearm of U.S. patrol police back then. It wasn't until the early 90s that American cops started switching to semi-autos, though, in some rural areas, you can still spot one today. Moving on to automatic weapons. The heavy hitter here is the German submachine gun, the Heckler and Koch MP5, a 3 with a collapsible stock. A globally popular firearm, It was developed back in 1960s, but really gained fame after the 1972 Munich Olympics tragedy. With over 20 variants, it's officially in service with more than 50 countries, including some post-Soviet states. So it makes perfect sense that elite European mercenaries would bring it along for the heist. But here's the catch. In the movie, there are almost no real MP5s. Instead, they use civilian Heckler and Koch HK 94 carbines. The prop team simply took those HK 94s, which legally had long hunting barrels, chopped them down to look like military models, and modified the trigger groups for full auto fire. Look closely. You'll notice these guns lack the characteristic magazine release lever near the trigger guard, as well as the bayonet lug and three-prong flash hider. The filmmakers clearly wanted to wow the audience, so they featured the most futuristic gun of its time, the Austrian Steyr AUG assault rifle. This was its first on-screen appearance in cinema. Its standout features: a bullpup design, magazine and action behind the grip, a mostly polymer body, built-in optics, and a quick change barrel. Developed in the early 70s as the Austrian Army's standard rifle, it comes in several variants, including a light machine gun version. Unfortunately, even this rifle has a blooper. In one scene, when Karl shoves it almost into the director's lens, you can see there's no glass in the scope. That's because they use a rubber prop for non-firing shots to protect the expensive real deal. But it's not just the mercenaries who love Austrian firearms, so do the FBI agents. One of them storms in with a precision Austrian sniper rifle, the Steyr SSG-69, equipped with a massive night scope. The 69 stands for its year of adoption, 1969. Now, here's where I got some serious questions for the filmmakers. U.S. law enforcement are diehard patriots about their gear. Back then, the FBI exclusively used domestic rifles like the Remington 700 or Winchester Model 70. Plus, one of the FBI agents is a Vietnam vet in the U.S. Military's primary sniper rifle in Vietnam was the Winchester Model 70. I'm 100% sure that agent would have brought that rifle to the job. But hey, if you disagree, drop your take in the comments. Now, the local SWAT team in the film is armed with the iconic M16 rifle which tracks. Adopted in the 1960s, the early models had issues, but by the late 80s, the platform had been refined with multiple variants. The film features an older variant, the XM16 E1, recognizable by its distinctive rosebud muzzle brake/compensator. Honestly, for authenticity, the filmmakers could have given SWAT the shorter M16A2 carbine, but that's not even the main issue. The real problem? Those aren't real rifles, they're Japanese-made replicas. Basically toys. Hollywood bought them by the truckload in the 80s. In one close-up shot, you can clearly see a non-standard bolt carrier that only appears on replicas. When things go south, the heavy artillery rolls in. First up, the legendary American M60 machine gun, specifically the lighter E3 variant. You can spot it by the lightened receiver cover, extra foregrip, and shorter barrel. A classic American workhorse of that era. Kind of strange they didn't arm the mercenaries with a German MG3 or even Chinese type 80 copies of the PKM that would have looked way cooler. Agree? The classic M60 also appears mounted on the FBI's helicopter. And for the grand finale, a homemade bazooka that defies identification. It's likely a Hollywood Wunderwaffe cobbled together from a classic American bazooka and the launch tube from a Swedish @4 grenade launcher. With this DIY contraption, the thieves blow up a SWAT armored vehicle, the M8 Greyhound, which had its turret removed. Not exactly cutting-edge tech for the time, and to top it off, it was a British World War II era design. Why did U.S. SWAT have it? Your guess is as good as mine. My bet. The director wanted a spectacular explosion, but no one was going to let them blow up real military hardware. So they dug this old relic out of Hollywood's prop warehouse and blew it up in style. But even here, there's a goof. Watch closely. When the rocket hits the second time, the Greyhound's windshield, already completely shattered in the first explosion, shatters again. Looks like they only had one vehicle to blow, so they shot the rocket launch from different angles and stitched both takes together for maximum epicness. But you know what? Despite all these technical hiccups, chopped up civilian carbines, double shattering glass, and all die hard remains an all-time great. Agreed? Now over to you. Which firearm stood out as the most memorable and badass? Hans Gruber's chromplated pistol, the futuristic Steyr AUG, or good OL, John McClane's trusty Beretta? Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you next time, and as always,